Genetics went in my favor that way.
That's awesome.
I may only be 5'9", but I do for some reason
You're like,
have calves.
he's like
Have
pure
excellent
muscle,
calves.
the lower half of his body. It's just like eating ice cream, and his calves are bulging, and his thighs are bulging. I'm like,
The ice cream actually makes them pulsate,
Yeah.
so I eat as much as I can.
I'm getting aroused. I don't know if we can continue this conversation. No excited? This is the first
Donkey
one
Kong in my chest all the way here.
with this table and 3 people. It's only the second one I've tried with 3 people.
Is that rich mahogany?
this is a really nice desk.
It's fun. You're kind of the master of that if you want to control the world.
Don't tempt me.
You can't. So you can like,
Change your voice.
Whoa.
but we won't do that for this. This is a serious podcast.
This is super serious.
So Bobby Macey, 3-time Man Games participant.
0-time champion.
Hey, it's okay. You're
bummer.
Mr. Congeniality of all of the games. You've been voted. It's official. Heidi Macey, you and your team are the reigning Girl Games champions.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a bunch of icebreaker questions from Instagram, but first I want to dive into that. How does it feel to be Girl Games champion? And what have you been doing with that title the last few months?
It's pretty amazing. I be sure to wear my champion t-shirt to my pickup basketball group regularly just so they know I'm a champion.
Yeah. And to rub in that
And-
they're not a champion.
Yeah. The biggest perk of it is that I can say that I've won Girl Games and Bobby hasn't won Man Games. So
That's perfect.
that's a pretty great title to have.
She does hold that over me.
So
Is there a lot of competitiveness in the family?
there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly from me, less from Bobby.
Give him your line, dear. You make me.
So angry. Bobby
been a-
just is annoyingly good at everything. And even my family, like, we'll play stupid minute to win it games and he wins them. And so everyone kind of cheers against Bobby now. It's kind of sad. He doesn't
You
have a
should
lot of
see me
support.
pull Kleenex out of a box at a rapid rate. It's amazing.
You just have those skills. It's fantastic. And that was actually a question that came up on Instagram. A game of one-on-one basketball to 7 2s and 3s. Who wins?
Oh, well, Bobby wins. But I have held strong and I do try and give him a run for his money. If I feel like he's like letting me win, I get really mad because he's by far a better basketball player than me, but he'll play competitively. If he feels like I'm getting loose or getting close to winning, then he will. I can tell he like cranks up his competitiveness and
Is
goes
it
in
worse
for the
that way
win.
or is it better that way? Like, is it okay?
It
that
kind
he
of
keeps
depends
it
on it depends on my mood. Sometimes we end playing angry. It just ends with me mad. But I've been like maturing and usually it's all in good fun. But
That's awesome.
It is
Yeah.
competitive, though. Like one day we were playing in our driveway, and we live in a cul-de-sac, and there's the sweetest older lady who lives down the road, and she's always out there walking her dog. And she's probably 75, and like the type of woman that you're like, wow, like you are just closer to Jesus than the rest of us. And Heidi swatted me and just was like, ah! So the very next play, I send that ball halfway down the circle. And because we're at the top of the circle, right? And like it goes rolling. And I just King Kong my chest. And I'm like, ah! And this lady is looking at us just like, oh,
What is going on?
And then later she tells Heidi, she's like, I just thought that was so sweet that you and Bobby were playing basketball together. But she was dead serious. And like,
Yeah.
she knew that we weren't angry at each other, but like Heidi and I we have a lot of fun like that.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
yeah, it's fun.
We're probably going to need you to move your microphone over here if you're talking to me. You're in a tough spot because you're looking both directions.
Yeah, I am.
So if you look one way or the other, that microphone's
This
going to
is the
struggle.
one moment in life where you want googly eyes.
It's true. It's true. Let me ask both of you this, and I don't care which order you take it in, but what is it about sports that you enjoy? What do sports bring to your life?
Oh, I have to answer first.
Mademoiselle.
Because you have to think about an answer.
Exactly.
So you're making me answer first. Okay. Okay, sports. What do I love about sports? I think one is just the physicality of it. Like, I love feeling physically active in a gamified way. So playing basketball or swimming or pickleball or volleyball or running, whether it's personal or team sport, I like pushing myself physically in that way. And I love the feeling of being on a team and working together with people for a common goal. Like, it's just such an inspiring feeling to me. And yeah, I don't know. I love sports. I love them all. They're just so fun. There's just something about it that's just fulfilling to me. So
That's awesome. What about you, Bobby?
Mine are similar. The physicality of it, this idea of, I mean, scientifically, what's happening when you're releasing endorphins and the way that it makes you feel and kind of that natural high. Like, I'm not a guy who's like, I am seeking a thrill. I'm seeking a high in life, but through very natural ways,
Yeah.
not the drugs. And so for me, sports gives that to me. But it's also this level of competitiveness where there's a lot of strategy involved, and I'm a creator. Like, that's what I do for work. A lot of how I think is creatively. And so for me, sports are about how can I get creative and within the confines of the rules of the game, whatever it is, to push myself, to maximize, refine myself, and hopefully come out on top. And
Yeah.
so it's validating from that creative standpoint. It's validating from the physical standpoint. And then Heidi even touched on the camaraderie standpoint, and that's huge for me.
Yeah, and you both seem to play team sports and individual sports. So what's your preference? Do you prefer a team sport or an individual sport?
I like them for different reasons. I feel like I have a sense of how far I can push myself, and that's where the individual side comes in, and it's like, let's go, right? But the team sport is fulfilling because you do have to trust other people. And I've got a lot on that in life, right? In business, in whatever it is, if you don't trust other people, your life's never going to be as fulfilling and you're never going to accomplish as much.
Yeah.
And so for different reasons, both.
What about you, Heidi?
I think when I was younger, I would probably say team sport, but now I really love individual sports. I think especially because my mind shift has changed where it's not so much about me trying to be the best or me trying to be other people to make a team. It's about me pushing myself to be a better version of myself. And so whether I'm going out running and I'm trying to get a faster time or go a longer distance, it's just me. And I don't have to worry about other people. I can just go and enjoy it and do it for me and compete with me. And it's just something that I've come to like the older that I've gotten.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the listeners, all 12 of them, might not know this, but you and I were doubles partners in high school for tennis.
Baby.
Tennis is interesting because I tend to, I think, prefer individual sports simply because I feel like I'm letting people down in team sports. Like, I probably am a perfectionist in certain areas where it's like if I'm playing tennis or basketball or something, I don't want to let everybody else down. I would rather, like, I'm fine letting myself down and like figuring it out. But I remember like doubles, I was like, oh, if I double fault or something, I just felt bad that you were going to hate me, even though you don't. And there was never like that reaction from you, but it was always that different kind of pressure. So
Yeah.
definitely a difference. What is it about, and they'll be different for both of you, but what is it about girl games that keeps you coming back? Like, why girl game? What do you get out of girl games besides champion shirts and prizes that come 6 months late? And,
Hey, I love 6 month late prizes. It was awesome.
Good.
There's a few different things. One is just the element of our core team of 4. So my sister and I had told my sister about man games and how they were doing girl games. And so she and I decided to form our own team. So she brought a friend and I brought a friend. And so having just a weekend with those 3 other ladies is really fun. And we're all different. We all have kind of different paths in life that we're on. And it's just really fun to kind of take a break from the different hats we wear and just enjoy each other and have that weekend together. With that being said, I also have loved getting to know all the other teams. Like, there's just a sense of unity and camaraderie with all the other girl teams that is super awesome. And there's girls like from all walks of life and different athletic talents. And it really, for me, like, I really could care less if I say that, but never mind. I get competitive.
She'd be so mad if they didn't compete at a high level.
In our volleyball game, we kind of got a little snippy with the other team, but I loved them. I was just getting really competitive. But at the end of the day, like, if I took last every time, I would still want to come back because it's just fun being in that environment with other women. And the women that have come are just awesome. Like, every Saturday when it ends, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to see you guys again. I could probably try and do better about that. And just having access to just have 2 full days of playing sports is like so fun. And things like last time we did ultimate frisbee, like I haven't played ultimate frisbee since college and I just was eating it up. I thought it was so fun. And spike ball and pickleball and all the things, it's just like, it's competitive, but it's just really fun. And one thing that's cool is Bobby will sometimes bring my kids to watch. And I think it's important for them to see, like, me as a stay-at-home mom, they see like, oh, my mom does stuff for herself and she has hobbies and she has friends and she's athletic and she does these things. And so that's also kind of a cool element to have them see me participate in stuff like that. Because even my kids and my own daughter's like, I want to do a kids games. Is there going to be a kids games? And I was like,
we're working on it.
So yeah, that's why I love girl games. I'd sing its praises all day.
With that, you said something that I think tails off into my experience too. With guys, our whole lives has been like, hey, let's all get together, go to the church, let's play basketball, let's go play tennis, let's go do these things. With my wife and the other women in my life, it seems like that's less common with women of like, hey, let's get together on a late night and go play a sport. Mm-hmm. Or even organized leagues aren't quite as big for women as they are for men. Mm-hmm. And so in setting up girl games, that was kind of the thought of like, let's give them an opportunity to like block everything out and go play something when they may not have the opportunities. Or in your case, like Caitlin said the exact same thing you do of like, oh, I'm not going to see these girls again. I should probably be better at getting their numbers and talking to them outside of this, but it never happens because kids and life and whatever else. So I'm glad you say that because that's definitely a purpose of it, is to give all of you a chance to come and just put everything on the back burner and go play and have some fun.
Yeah, I love it. And I know my team loves it too. So, and Michelle really gets into the prizes. So she's like, guys, we got to win this because I want those Kizik shoes. And I felt some pressure from Michelle, and
she got them,
but we did it, so it was all good.
So you're in for May? We're going to do it in May?
I am for sure in for May.
Perfect.
I don't know if our full team is, but
okay.
I for sure am.
We'll have to talk after because I'm trying to settle on the dates. And so if it's a date problem or experience problem, it's different. But if it's a date problem, we might be able to work that out.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, what about you? What do you get out of man games that is different?
Man. I'll tell you, man games is like a reprieve for me. And so Heidi and I treat it as like, hey, you try and make this an event for the whole weekend. Like, go get an Airbnb, go get a hotel, I should probably turn this on silent, huh? Go get something, like make it an experience so that it's going to be a weekend where you don't have to worry about the kids. You don't have to deal with the bedtimes, the feeding, the this, the that, whatever it is. And you just get to go enjoy and have fun playing sports. And for me, it's like, I'm a people person. Like, I feed off people's energy.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, just like there was never a shot in basketball that I didn't like, it's rare for me to, not like an opportunity to meet more people.
Yeah.
And so...
Are you saying you're a ball hog?
I'm just saying I like
Okay.
to shoot the
He
basketball.
plays to his strengths.
Even if it's an ill-advised fadeaway three-pointer with a 6'4" guy
Yeah.
defending you. But for me, it's really become a networking thing. Like, I don't think that I've landed business from Man Games per se, but I've had conversations with people and strengthened relationships that are just awesome.
Yeah.
And in fact, my biggest challenge right now is trying to put together a team. Like, I have to ask myself this question every time that Man Games comes around. And the question is, do I try and find a team that is going to compete with yours? Or do I try and get my friends to come who I know are great at different things, but may not, their strengths may not be all over the board,
Yeah.
right? Like, if I'm the best pickleballer on the team, then we have a problem because I'm not nearly as good at pickleball as you or John or some of these others, right? And like, so we're just going to not win out in pickleball. And there are other events where maybe we have a chance. And so I'm constantly fighting that battle of like, what do I want Man Games to be for me? But ultimately, every time I've settled on, I want it to be an experience with my friends.
Yeah.
And so that's been tremendous for me. And it really is like a weekend therapy session.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And I think that it's an interesting concept of when you said like even business doesn't come from it. I was thinking about this today for some reason. I was like, if for whatever reason I lost my job, right? I have no doubt that everybody at Man Games and even those affiliated with Girl Games, I feel like I could land somewhere. I feel like just the community that we've built, and same thing for you and anybody that comes there, it may not be directly videography business, but I feel like if anything ever happened to any of you, everybody at Man Games and Girl Games would just do whatever it took to make sure you were good and whole.
Yeah.
We saw that with Brandon. We've seen that time and time again. And for me, I'm not the guy who associates the ROI with, does it put money in my pocket now from a business standpoint? I'm the guy who's like, the ROI is the relationships. I want friendships with these people. And from there, it's like, if I ever do business with you, great.
Yeah.
But that's not my purpose for going. My purpose for going is to cultivate better relationships. And it's been tremendous that way. Like, we have met some cool
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. It seems like every time, because I don't know everybody at this point. It started out with me knowing everybody, and now I don't. And it's really fun to meet cool people. And you mentioned that you like being around people. To call you an extrovert may be an undersell because you're one of the most bubbly people I've ever met. So Heidi, what is it like being married to the most extroverted person on the planet?
Please do tell.
You know, usually I like to make sassy comments to Bobby just because he is so positive and happy. And I'm always hearing about like, oh, Bobby is so happy and he changed my life. Like, I'm hearing this stuff all the time. So sometimes I like to be the antagonist or like act like, oh, be quiet. But it's pretty great being married to Bobby, if I have to be honest. Like, it's
Ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum.
This is recorded forever now.
My heart
You've
grew
got
Yeah,
three
you-
sizes
when
today.
I'm mad at you, you can like replay this part. But there is just this contagious aspect of his positivity that has blessed my life. And not that I'm a negative person, but he's really helped me kind of help change my mind shift on things about, you know, before you despair, think about all the good things that have happened and all the good things that can happen. And sometimes maybe I wish he would just be a little less optimistic.
Be
at
sad
times.
every once in a while.
Yeah. But honestly, it's pretty great. So
What's the story there? Like, you met in high school, right? And
Yeah.
I met my wife in high school. My wife wanted nothing to do with me in high school.
Ding, 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 ding,
That's
ding.
how it works.
So what happened? How did he change that?
Well, so Bobby and I had similar friends. My really good guy friends, Adam Norris, Jeff Christensen, they were also good friends with Bobby. And I didn't like Bobby. I think I kind of had some defense mechanisms, and I kind of had a chip on my shoulder that if I thought somebody was like popular and with the cool crowd, I just acted like I did not care about them at all. And so I just thought Bobby was kind of a schmuck. Like I I thought he was this kid that thought he was so hot and was so friendly to everybody that I honestly thought it was fake. And then I knew who his girlfriends were, and I was just like, oh, you're one of those
Plural,
guys.
girlfriends.
Yeah, many. And it's really not great when we run into people from high school, and then later I'm like, did you make out with her? And I'm just.
And the answer is always no.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. This is legitimately a question that came through here. I want to phrase it correctly here. And he phrased like, do each of you know how many people you've made out with? And
I do.
If no, guess.
Bobby doesn't. Bobby will lie and say that he does, but I guarantee he does
Just
not.
the number.
I don't know the number, but it's not astronomically high.
Yeah.
The fact that
Meaning
you don't know the number means that
No,
it's
it's
high.
like,
So you don't know the number for him, but he knows the number for you? Is that what you're saying?
well, I don't remember the number for Heidi. I would guess
I know how
between
many
5 and
people
10.
I've made out with, but Bobby wouldn't know how many he has made out with because it's been so many.
It's funny because I was going to phrase it like body count, but in Utah, body count's different. Like everywhere else, it means something else. Here, it's like, did you hold hands?
2 hands, 2 feet, and maybe a couple other, you
Yeah.
know, like a nose and an ear or something, and
All right.
I'm probably coming close.
I've heard it not just from you though, of others of like, hey, is Bobby really that nice? I have to tell him like, yeah,
Yeah.
he genuinely is. Like,
Yeah.
it's not fake. It's not a persona. That's who he
No,
is.
It's
So,
100% genuine. And that's like, we reconnected after high school, and
how?
so we both served missions for our church, and he went to Brazil and I went to a different mission in Brazil, and I came home early for some anxiety issues that I had to come home and get figured out. And Bobby had heard about this, and he had just come home from his mission, and he stopped by to see how I was doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this kid doing at my house? How does he even know? Like, I was very angry and not in a very good place at the time. But Bobby was just so like compassionate and caring. And for the first time since I had been home for a month or so, I felt like I was an okay person. And I had this feeling of like, it's okay. I'm okay. It's going to be fine. And then we just kept hanging out, and then I couldn't get rid of him. And here we are.
Was there a turning point where you were like, okay, now he's a good person? And not just that, like I'm okay hanging out with him, but when did it transfer into like, I could be okay marrying this guy?
Yeah, so we were hanging out and we honestly got married pretty quick. Like it all happened within 7 months.
7 months,
for one
yeah.
of those people. Yeah, I would not. If my
Hashtag
kids did
Utah.
that. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. But we were hanging out a lot, and I remember Bobby could make me laugh. He made me feel comfortable. I was myself around him. And it honestly was pretty quick that I realized, like, this is somebody that I want around me all the time. I just feel great when I'm around him. And I remember there was one night he came over to my house and we were playing Mario Kart, just having fun. And my mom came in and she was just sitting on the couch watching us play Mario Kart and just laughing with us. And then when Bobby left, my mom looked at me and she's like, that is the happiest I've ever seen you, is when you're with Bobby. And I was like, oh, yeah.
I guess he's not so bad.
I need to phrase this the right way, but Bobby has a way with moms. So my mom, because I posted that we were having this interview, my mom was
I
like,
love
tell
Barb.
Bobby that I love him. Because when he worked at
does.
Macey's, she would go to Macey's all the time. And she just loved Bobby. And so
Yeah.
it's just, it
Yes.
seems like,
She would come through my line, and she was just as sweet as they come. Like, I mean, back then you didn't really have self-checkout, but you had a 15 items or less express,
Yeah.
right? And she'd wait in my line, even if it was a longer one. And I just loved that. I love that
Yeah.
woman.
is that how
Barb,
you got so
I
good at
love
the
you.
at the fast?
Yeah,
Hey,
Kleenex?
that is the
is-
Kleenex secret. Is I
yeah.
was like, boop, 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 boop.
So Bobby wins over your mom. siblings and everything, same thing. Did they fall in love with him quick, or was that a harder sell?
My brother's a pretty hard sell, like a very hard sell.
Like we were married for at least a year before he liked me. Hard sell.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like I think it was kind of hard for my family, like my siblings initially, because I came home and I was in such a dark place. And then I think to them, it felt like all of a sudden I was getting married. But I feel like it was really quick that they were all on board with Bobby. And once they got to know him, like my sister and her husband all got to love Bobby really fast. And my dad loves Bobby. I feel my dad loves
Her dad and I are like
Bobby.
best friends.
Yeah.
Like we really like we do business together. He's one of my mentors. Like my dad passed away in 2019, but like I would go to her dad for things that I wouldn't even dream of going to my own dad for. Right.
Yeah.
And he's just that guy.
Is there anything else you want to add to like the dating experience or the trying to shift her belief in you?
The crazy thing about Heidi and I reconnecting is that
What made you reach out to her when you knew that?
so
back?
it all started because in Brazil I had never had a companion on my mission that was American. And my very last 6 weeks in the mission, I had gotten my first American companion, and I was training him. And he had been in the MTC, the Missionary Training Center, with Heidi, and he had come to where I was, and she had obviously gone to a separate place. And so he had showed me his photos of like, oh, this was my experience there. And I was like, dude, I know that girl. Like, I went to high school with her. And I literally...
She gave me crusties every time I... Also, you said you were going to take me to a dance, and he didn't.
Ooh.
Well,
Okay, that's another story
that's
for
a
another
story
time.
for another day.
Caitlin told me no. I asked her to prom and she said no.
I knew I liked Caitlin.
What a ride. You
I
know?
won't tell why, but
You won the long game, though.
yeah.
And so did I. And so ultimately, I had written Heidi a letter, like a joint authored letter with this guy. And it was like, hey, remember me? I'm that bubbly kid from high school that you probably hated. Good luck on your mission. Hey, rah-rah with the language. Good luck, you know.
Yeah.
And that had been forwarded to her house. And so I never heard back. I came home, and then I get home and I realize this Facebook thing is real. And so I get a Facebook account, and she had received the letter, and she had messaged me saying, hey, I got your letter. Thanks? ? And
I was nice about
no,
it.
she was nice about it. She had mentioned something about anxiety, and I was like, you mean to tell me she just came home in Utah? She doesn't have a cast on her leg. Like, mental health, even, you know, we've been married 13 years, and so 14 years ago when we kind of started this journey, it was much more taboo than it is today.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I gotta go talk to her. And I just had this feeling like I should. And so the only thing I knew about Heidi was that we shared a few mutual friends and that she played on the girls' basketball team in high school. And I was like, well, I played on the boys' basketball team. Let's roll. And so I pick her up, we get keys to a church, and we just go and shoot around. And that was like just a game changer for us.
Bobby didn't think that a girl could like dribble a basketball or shoot a basketball.
That is
correctly
not
then,
true.
Because I remember I took a shot and you were like, whoa. Like,
Well, I'd been watching Brazilian ladies shoot for the last few years, you know, and they
You're good
only
with
play
the feet.
soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know for the record that
just
girls
kidding.
play basketball. But I was just impressed with Heidi, and I was just chatting with her, and I had actually worked with a few missionaries on my mission who had struggled with that, but I didn't know that that was the label. I didn't know anxiety and depression were what they were dealing with, but I just kind of had this sense of they're dealing with something hard, and this isn't just a square your shoulders and suck it up kid moment.
Yeah.
And so I kind of felt the same thing with Heidi and what she was experiencing, and I just wanted to talk to her. And then just one thing led to another, and all of a sudden we just started hanging out. And she had every intention of going back out. And so then here I am, and I have every intention of going to school and maybe trying to walk on it slick or something, and, you know, all 5'9" of me. And then all of a sudden, both of us are sitting in this scenario where we're like, is this love? And so we have a DTR, and all of a sudden we're just like to give you an idea, when she called,
to be a fly on the wall of that conversation would be funny.
she called, we got married in an LDS temple, and when she called to schedule the appointment, the lady was like,
bring this up.
well, what's your fiance's birthday? And Heidi was like,
He doesn't have one.
his name's John Doe. And so that's like, I mean, she did know my birthday. She just had a brain cramp. But it was like everything moved so quickly. And it was one of those where you really did have to trust your feelings, because logically it made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
She was trying to get back out. I was trying to start a life and remember, like, okay, this is the real world, you know? And there was so much ahead of both of us. But then our feelings were just telling us, like, you'd rather do this together, you know? And there was still a lot of unknown with Heidi in regards to, like, treatment for anxiety and what that looked like long term, and what happens if you introduce marriage or kids into that. But ultimately, both of us just decided, you got to live life with faith, right? Even if you're not a religious person, you got to have hope that you're just going to be able to confront the challenges that you face in life. And we'd rather do that together than separately. And so then December 29th, 2009, dun, 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 the wedding bells rang.
Nice. Was that timed around like college finals or something?
Oh, gosh.
That was the worst time to get married.
So ours is the 16th, December 16th, because it was the day after my last final.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like right after finals, in between semesters, and every year we're like, oh, we hate what our anniversary
Well,
is.
because prices double for anything that you want to do that week,
Yeah.
because it's in between Christmas and New Year's. Like we've never done anything super cool for our anniversary during that week,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, you want to go on a cruise? It's now double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Bobby was a nice support at that time of your life when you were going through those things, and even if they continue on. But also I know that I've kept tabs on Bobby and his professional life. It seems like you've been a really strong support for him, because even going through all of your jobs, and speaking of Alan Hansen at KSL saw this as well. He said to say hi. But
What a
everyone I
guy.
talked to that has ever worked with Bobby has the same impression, right? Everybody loves you. But I know that going through your different careers, there were times where you could like the place that you're at, but it's just not fulfilling you in the way that you want. And then you decided to spin off and start your own thing. But that's kind of a big decision to have with a family and with kids and a wife. So I feel like there has to have been support on that side too. And even though he's bubbly all the time, I'm sure there were moments where
He's not always bubbly.
fear.
90%
nerves.
I
of
learned
the
to
time.
breathe.
But
So
yeah.
so take me through that. Take me through that conversation you're having with him of like, hey, he has this crazy idea. I want to do my own thing. What's going
Yeah.
through your mind?
Well, Bobby had wanted to do his own thing for a few years, right? Before we actually did it. And I was always like, that's great. If you want to do something on the side while you're working, like, that is great. But during that time of him trying to kind of side hustle and figure out what it is he would even want to do, there's just not enough time in the day. He was working full time. He's very involved in our church, and he's super involved dad and a very involved husband. And so finding time to even like work on a side hustle and meet these other priorities, I could see how like it would be near impossible for him to get anything going on the side because there just isn't time. And his biggest goal is to be there for his kids and his wife, and he would never let a side hustle get in the way of that. And that's something that I saw and felt. And during those few years where he was trying to work on the side, I also just saw his work ethic. I always knew that Bobby was a hard worker, but during that time, I also saw like he grinds and he works hard and he's gritty and willing to do things that a lot of people aren't. And so I'm not a risk taker. I could work a 9 to 5 and be so happy. You know, I would do great at that. But when Bobby was laid off at his last job, it was super, super unexpected. Like we had no idea that it was coming. And we had saved up, we had been bolstering our savings. And when he came home and told me that he was laid off, I just felt it in my mind and my heart that like, if Bobby is ever going to go on his own, now is the perfect time to do it. And if he doesn't do it, he's going to look back on his life with regret. And I had a really honest conversation with myself, realizing like we have one life. And if this is something that he's passionate about, I don't want to be the one that's holding him back.
Yeah.
And because of his work ethic and his optimism, I just knew like if anybody could do it, it's Bobby. So I waved my white flag and I was and he didn't even have to ask me. I just said, you got to do it. Like it's now or never. And now I have had moments of weakness where I'm like, what are we doing? Oh my goodness.
We both have.
Go get a real job. But I would not trade this experience for anything. It's been a really cool journey to be on.
Well, and he speaks so highly of you outside of that. I mean, we go to lunch occasionally, and so I know that you're an integral part of even that spinning off. So in what ways does she support and help? Because I think you said something like you're the creative mind, we know that, but she kind of makes sure you guys are keeping on budgets and that you're doing what you need to do and fulfilling all of the, like the details side of things.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a tendency to run myself ragged if I'm not careful, right? Like I'll just be like, oh yeah, like the people pleasing side of me will kick in. And I'll be like, I can do that for you, and by this date, and da 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 da. And Heidi helps me to be more of a realist in that sense, because I can get carried away. And she also is a sense of like she's great to bounce ideas off of. And then literally, it was just a week ago, she finally let me outsource our bookkeeping. And so she's been doing it for 3.5 years.
Wow.
And I've told her multiple times, like, hey, I've got contacts. I can outsource this. This is how much it'll cost. We can make it work and this and that. She's like, no, we'll just save it. No, we'll just save it. And just now she's letting me outsource it. And so
I've made too many mistakes now. It's beyond.
Heidi's very capable, but like neither of us want to wear the hat of a bookkeeper, right?
Yeah.
But that's just one way she sacrificed. But then the other thing is when you go from a comfortable salary, like I was making 130 before and we had full benefits and I had a team I was managing, and then you get blindsided with a layoff and a 2-week severance, it was like, it's go time, right? Yeah. And so to have her support from the get-go, but then knowing that entrepreneurship is peaks and valleys, like the first gig I landed was $500. And when you're used to pulling in more than 10K a month, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, honey, we made 500, right?
We were so excited for that 500.
We were so excited. And then 2 weeks after we start our business, my dad dies of cancer. And that was, like, what? And I had taken him to his cancer treatments for years and, this and that. And it was just like a blindside. And so, it wasn't fully a blindside because he had cancer, right? Yeah. But we didn't expect him to die 2 weeks after starting a company. Yeah. And then it's just a matter of like trying to battle emotion, trying to lean on your wife for support. Our kids were pretty young. They didn't fully understand what was going on.
And then COVID.
And then COVID hits.
Yeah, that was
a few months after. October 2019, we start our business. And COVID obviously is right around the corner.
Yeah.
It was on my birthday, March 12th, I think, that Rudy Gobert touched all the microphones. And
still remember that.
And it was just like, oh, happy birthday. The world just shut down. So then I'm used to doing video and photo production. And then all of a sudden I have to switch and do a ton of copywriting, which thankfully was in my skill set. And that got us through. But in the meantime, Heidi is just... she's willing to take hits on how much we pay ourselves. She's willing to take hits on, the ebbs and flows of my time. Sometimes I had more time. Sometimes I had less time. And meanwhile, I'm dumping as much money back into the business as I can, buying cameras, doing this and that. And it's like every time we do this, either debt increases or what we can pay ourselves decreases, right? And so it's like, ugh. And then just along the way, we've just had these saving graces, landing clients that we have no business landing at our size. And then all of a sudden it's just like, here we are 3.5 years later. She is Miss Consistent. That's what she is in life. She's just consistent. And for me, that's what I need. I need somebody who can ground me, but who can also let me flap my wings.
Yeah, that's super cool. And even like stretching this maybe a little bit further than I should when we talk about those team sports, right? Of just having people to support you when you're down or when you're high, being able to continue that and not bring you back down. That's super cool.
We always have a running joke in our house where it's like if one of us is in kind of a funk, it's like, no, you can't be in a funk right now. Like that's not okay.
I think I got annoyed with you the other night. I think you came home and I was like really like worked up about something, and then you were getting worked up, and then when the kids were away, I was like, it's my turn to be upset right now. You got to keep it cool for the kids because I'm having my moment. But
so then I waved my magic wand and I was bubbly Bobby again.
yeah, for the most part, we kind of take turns. But
Yeah.
you know,
Super cool. Super fun.
Great
Okay.
questions, by the way.
We got more. Some of them are silly, like this one. Who has better calves?
oh, Bobby, hands down. Well, for a man, I guess. I don't think I'd want your calves actually.
Genetics went in my favor that way.
That's awesome.
I may only be 5'9", but I do for some reason
You're like,
have
he's
calves.
like
Have
pure
excellent
muscle,
calves.
the lower half of his body. It's just like eating ice cream, and his calves are bulging, and his thighs are bulging. I'm like,
The ice cream actually makes them pulsate,
Yeah.
so I eat as much as I can.
I'm getting aroused. I don't know if we can continue this conversation. Why is it called pina colada? Please make something convincing up. This name makes no sense to me. This isn't me, by the way. This
this is all Bobby. I'm not taking
Why
this
is it
one.
called pina colada? I think it has to do with this idea of if you like it, then there's rain involved with it, you know?
okay.
But I'm not quite sure other than that. Can we come back to that one?
Yeah. Do you have any idea of why it's called pina colada?
No,
Not the song, just the drink.
just Spanish. That's not
Yeah.
witty. Just pineapple coconut.
There
Is
you go.
colada? What is coconut in Spanish? I don't even know.
No idea. I
Yeah,
don't speak
no idea.
Spanish. Pina colada.
I don't know if it's in Portuguese. Well, I don't know if Spanish if it's cocoa, but it might be.
Yeah, it was pineapple. It was strained pineapple is what the Spanish term means.
Oh, but they are delicious, aren't they?
Mm. Mm. There's the question of how many people is the other one made out with? I couldn't find it earlier. Which fictional character do you think you are the most like? Well, let's answer it the other way. Which fictional character do you think Bobby is most like? And then same thing back. And then also on top of that, I want to answer, who would you want to play you in a movie about you? So which
wow.
fictional character do you think Bobby is most like?
Oh man, I got to think about this for a second because I know that there's some annoying fictional character out there that.
I'm glad that you led with annoying.
Oh,
I know who I think she would say, but she hasn't said it yet.
yeah, I'm kind of having a brain crap.
Do you know for her? Who would you say is a
So
fictional character?
I think, and this is probably the first time she's hearing this, but and I just forgot her name, but it's Scarlett Johansson in the Avengers series, and the
Black Widow?
Black Widow.
Black Widow, yes. And here's
Oh.
why: Black Widow can hold her own in any scenario, but she also has a tender side.
And is a murderer.
I know.
Well,
Well,
No, keep going. Keep
thanks,
going.
Bob.
no, but from the standpoint of like Heidi can fend for herself, both from like you put her in a room with people, and from an intelligence standpoint, she's gonna hold her own. From a physical standpoint, she's gonna hold her own. Like she can just fend for herself, and she's gritty that way. But then also you see this relationship between Black Widow and Hawkeye, where it's like they care about each other on a deeper level. And Heidi has this incredible ability to just care about other people. And so those are the two elements, not
I think
murder,
it's because
that make me say that.
I was thinking you were the Hulk. 'Cause
Well, every now and then. short guy who grows big, you know.
Because Black Widow has a resting face, and I have had many people tell me that I have a resting face. I try and work on it, but I just don't naturally look pleasant.
Beauty and grace.
Bobby's would be Buddy the Elf.
That's awesome.
He loves sugar,
Ding.
and he's just smiling's my favorite, and
Yeah.
just can see no wrong. In
I did answer the
anybody.
phone the other day. Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color?
That's a really good one. I like that one. I was going to say Mighty Mouse.
Ooh, I watched that as a kid.
Yeah.
Mighty Mouse would be good.
All right. So who would you want to play you in a movie starring you?
Okay, this is gonna sound really weird, but
That's what this podcast
the
is
younger
all about.
version, the younger Winona Ryder.
Okay.
That's kind of random.
Like, is there a
but-
movie in particular that you're like,
So
this movie?
she played Jo March in Little Women, and I love Little Women, and I love Jo March. She's kind of this tomboy and like beats to her own drum, isn't conforming to her society at the time, and I just think Winona plays Jo March so well, and I love Jo March, so I'd say Winona.
Okay.
Even the older version, Winona's awesome.
What about you, Bobby?
Oh, well, I would say, is it Jason Sudeikis who plays Ted Lasso?
Mm-hmm.
I could see him being me.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
Ted
yeah.
Lasso is who that I would have said.
I thought you would have said that, but I'm okay with Buddy the
Yeah,
Elf.
Ted Lasso's a good one too.
There's any really nice person is basically who we're thinking of for you.
Yeah.
Well, you're awfully kind.
So that's great. All right. I think this is the last like super goofy, weird one, but which one of you is most likely to be kidnapped?
Bobby, hands down.
If it is Bobby, this is part of the question. How long until Bobby has the kidnappers in on one of his business deals?
Not long at all.
I love
See?
that somebody asked this, and that was the follow-up.
I know who asked that. They know you well. Yeah. Bobby would be, and yeah, you would deflate the conflict by they would just love you, and then they'd go in on business with you, and
Once I chew through the gag rag, then all of a sudden it's our daughter Cora. She's 11, and she calls me Chatty Daddy.
That's awesome.
And so I'm like, okay, Chatty Daddy time.
yeah.
What do you want to do?
Oh, that is so funny. It's funny that they,
Can I ask
Assumed
who
you-
asked that?
that was
I-
JD.
Oh, JD, what a guy, man.
JD asked that one. Let's talk about your business venture. We did a little bit, but what is Macey Media and who can you help?
So Macey Media is your one-stop content shop.
Felt the
Nice hat,
chills.
by the way, Eric.
Thanks. Shameless plug.
So I'm a content marketer. I am a content creator, and I always have been. And so at first it started with this idea of I want to help people tell their stories. And when I worked with Alan Hansen, shout out to him, you brought him up earlier at KSL, I had developed certain sales skills because he was on the sales side, and I was always with him on client deals and this and that. So I kind of went into sponge mode, developed these sales skills, but then I also had these marketing and content creation skills. And at any given moment, we were working with financial firms, healthcare companies, solar companies, this, that, et cetera. So I just had to get good at telling stories quickly
Yeah.
for brands specifically. And so taking all that context, my other jobs also added things, arrows to the quiver, so to speak. And so when we decide to launch Macey Media, I'm like, well, what can I offer to make money? And we started out with video and photo, copywriting, graphic design, and personal branding. And so I was like, okay, cool. So it started out there and it shifted a little bit. Now it's probably honestly 90% video and photo. And which doesn't surprise me because that's the way the world's kind of going right now, especially with short form content. But what Macey Media does is we help you tell your story visually. And so we have a lot of clients that are just in need of videos, whether those are training videos, whether they're brand explainer videos, whether it's short form content like TikToks, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, etc. And we create content for them. Some of it's daily content and social media management, and other content is more like big hitting stuff where a CEO doesn't want to have to appear at a meeting every week, and so they hire us to come and create those videos so that he doesn't have to be, right? Or she doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it seems like content creation at this point has turned into this monster where you just can't feed it enough for these brands. And so to be able to
economy, baby.
put stuff out there in mass is important.
So it's been great for us because as that shift has happened and as people realize that content is king and it's so important to have content that gets you ranked on Google, that gets you found, that tells your story, like you're either in control of your story or you're not. And I'm a guy who likes to control the narrative, right? I don't want anybody thinking that I'm a schmuck. I don't want, now sometimes you can't help that, but when you, yeah, or Kimball, for example, probably thinks I'm a schmuck, right? Because the one altercation I ever had at Man Games happened to be with him. I'm sorry, Kimball.
Yeah.
But
I heard about that one.
yeah, I
It
came home and
probably
I
was
was like,
Bobby's fault.
I
It's
felt
fine.
so bad, hon. I like, you know,
Actually,
I,
I
had this
think I
moment
was
with this
probably like,
guy,
yeah,
and
good for you. Way to get into
Yeah.
it.
You should have done more.
I was like,
does he have a
Eric
black
said
eye?
not to be an a-hole, and I always just like plug my ears during that part because I'm not worried about it. And then all of a sudden, I was the a-hole, you know. And so this is my second apology, Kimball. But it's we really do live in this world where storytelling is so important, content creation is so important, and it's fun for me because it's a good challenge for me, and it's just nice to be able to make a living doing that now.
Yeah, that's super cool. I have a couple, it's kind of related, and it's going to spin into a little bit more deep things, I think. But friends have come up consistently. The friends that you've hung out with, mutual friends that you've hung out with, the friends that you bring to girl games and man games. What is it that you look for in a friend?
I look for somebody that makes me feel good, but also makes me feel good for the person that I am, right? Isn't being overly critical of me or making me feel like I have to act or be a certain way to fit in. I love just like down to earth, goofy people. I mean, those are kind of my people. But that comes in all sorts of types of people, right? And I think that's one thing that I've learned too is we often have perceptions of people that are not right, or we think, oh, she's really pretty and dressed to the nines. She's probably snotty. And then you find out, no, she's super down to earth and super cool. And I feel like I have friends, all types of different kinds of friends, but they all typically are just like real down to earth people trying their best. Bobby.
Sorry, Heidi.
We got to reset that camera.
I'm going to reset that camera.
No, you're good.
Hey, you know why I did this, right? Is because now Heidi knows that my camera has limitations.
Oh, there's an investment coming.
Investment.
There's always investments. Bobby likes expensive things.
I share that.
Yeah. Yeah. Caitlin and I could commiserate on that.
You should commiserate on that. This room here is more expensive than she wanted it to be.
I believe that.
Yeah. We need to figure out a way to have you two show your shoes on camera.
Oh, yeah.
I got a really simple way.
Nice.
The taxis, ladies and gentlemen.
This couple has the best shoe game of any couple I've ever seen.
Wow.
We
That's all because
like
of
our
Bobby.
shoes.
Bobby's a shoe lover.
Shoe guru.
Shoe guru. Okay, let me set this other timer just in case.
The good news is that we can cut all of this or just keep it. Like that's the fun part about
Yeah,
it.
that
All
is
right,
cool.
with either or.
Okay. So wrapping up friends,
Yeah, just
They're
people
real,
are real.
make you feel
Make
good,
me feel good.
kooky.
Yeah.
What about you, Bobby? What are you looking for in a friend? Because, and here's why I say this. I feel like making friends as we get older is a different experience than kids. You look at our kids, they just go and immediately it can be another kid. And it's like, yep, we're going and playing. And it's just like immediate connection on, you got Legos? Sweet. I know how to play with Legos. Let's go.
Yeah.
And as adults, I feel like there's a little bit more of a guard up and it's like, let's kind of fill each other out. And then I do or don't want to spend more time with you. So what is it about a person that would make you want to spend more time with them?
So for me, I have this natural curiosity about people that says, what makes you tick, right? It kind of comes back to storytelling. What is your story? Because everybody has one. And I tell this to Heidi, I tell this to other people all the time. I'm like, man, each of us is a nerd. And it just, what we geek out about is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I may geek out about the NBA. Not may, I do, right? Like I love basketball, and so I geek out about that. But for somebody else, that's World of Warcraft. And who am I to call them a nerd when to them, I'm the nerd,
Yeah.
right? And so for me, I like the curiosity of saying, what makes these people tick? And I want to get to know them so that I can understand them. And then it's just a game of finding the common denominator for me. And that's what friendship is for me, is it's like, look, all of us are way more similar than we are different if you really boil it down. And so for me, I'm like, man, I want as many friends as I can, because my goal in life is, yes, I naturally possess, and some of it is trained, right? But I do possess kind of a natural zest for life. Like I like my life, and I am a positive guy. And so for me, I feel this sense of, well, how can I use that? And creating friends is one of the best ways I can, because everybody has moments in their life when things are hard and it's crappy and you don't want to go on and yada, 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 right? So if I can be the answer to their prayer in that moment, or if I can be a tool in the big man's hands to help somebody or buoy them up with the talents I've been given or developed, like, yes, please sign me up. And so I view friendship that way. I'm like, and then there's the selfish side of it of like, man, what can I learn from you? Because I want to be a more refined person. And if you are geeking out about something that I'm not, can you please tell me about it?
Yeah.
Because there's something that I can pull from that.
Yeah. Very cool. What are you passionate about, Heidi? Outside of family, outside like the, what are you passionate about?
Apparently not Wild Cherry Pepsi, because it's still full.
This is a hard question because sometimes I'll talk to Bobby and I'll be like, I feel like I'm not passionate about anything. Like, I feel like Bobby's a very passionate person in a lot of ways.
In what ways, dear?
But yeah, I've thought a lot about this lately. I feel like I'm really passionate about my children and being a stay-at-home mom for them. That's something that I'm passionate about. And I am passionate about helping people feel okay with themselves and feeling loved and learning to deal with whether they have anxiety or depression or other things, like trying to help people feel like it's okay and there's hope and we can get through it together. I feel like that's something that I'm passionate about, and I do things to work with that kind of just behind the scenes on my own time.
That's super cool. What's a skill that you would like to learn?
I would like to be fluent in Portuguese. So because I came home early for my mission, I know a little bit. I can understand more when I'm reading, but I just want to go there and we're still in touch with quite a bit of Brazilian people that live in Utah. And I love that culture. I love those people. And I just wish that I could speak freely in that language with them. So, but then Bobby tries to correct me and I get mad. And so
You make me so angry.
What about you? What's a skill that you want to learn?
I desperately want to become more musical. I never prioritized music my whole life. I would love to actually be able to hear a tune and kind of sing along with it in like a decent manner. Like I always thought it would be so cool to get up one day and just blow people away with a solo. And people are like, you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, me.
So specifically singing?
So singing, but I think it would also be super awesome to learn the piano and learn the guitar.
Yeah.
Those are two. I've told Heidi multiple times, like, you know what? I just want to get to the point where I have a little bit more free time in the business so that I can take piano lessons.
Yeah.
Like, that's something I would enjoy. And I know that it's not, I know that that's just an excuse. Like, we could do it today. She could teach me the first level, and then I could go do lessons, and I would just have to, like anything else in life, create time for it. But I just haven't prioritized it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that I would really like to develop, because I feel like entertainers, it's just that next level. If you can sing,
So you're an
and-
entertainer now.
well, I end up. I mean, with my
Greatest
level of
showman.
with my level of energy,
Yeah.
usually, if something's dull, people will kind of look at me like,
Do
"Here
something."
we are now, entertain us."
Dude, that was great.
Oh, you are
I think
so
you're already
kind.
there.
Thank you.
Maybe.
I'm the guy that, like, when we're singing at church or something, I'm like, okay, who's next to me? Does it sound like I can match them?
Mm-hmm.
And then I try and match them in whispers.
Oh, that is so awesome. I want to dive into this because it's been brought up a few times. Heidi, you mentioned the anxiety that happened returning from the mission. You mentioned your passion is to help people through things similar to that, to let them know that they're okay. So I don't know the full story, but I know you moved to Utah.
Mm-hmm.
From where?
Colorado.
What was that? What caused that move, and what was going on there?
Yeah. So I'm the only person in my family to actually have grown up in Utah. And we moved to Utah when I was 12. My dad's job just got transferred here, and it was a good opportunity for him. So we came here, and in Colorado, I just feel like I had this really beautiful childhood. And in my childhood memory, it just was perfect. I had great friends. We kind of just had the run of the neighborhood, and I felt really good about myself. Like, childhood was just awesome. And then we moved to Utah, and it was honestly like a culture shock. I was just this, well, and we also lived in a smaller town. So people just weren't as worried about like fashion or home decor or even like dance. I didn't have many friends that danced, and I moved to Utah, and I feel like all of the girls in my neighborhood were dancers, and I was the only girl that played basketball. And so there was just kind of these simple, and it sounds silly, but from a 12-year-old mind, like, it was like my whole world had changed. And so in middle school, I kind of really had to figure out who I was and where I fit in. There were girls in my neighborhood that went to church with me that wouldn't talk to me or associate with me. They'd see me at school and they would totally ignore me. I had things that I wouldn't be invited to, and I had a hard time understanding why. Like, what was it about me that wasn't fitting in? And so 7th and 8th grade, my first 2 years in Utah were just really hard. And
7th and 8th grade are hard for everybody,
Yeah,
right?
middle
Like, and
school's
then
just
you
the worst.
throw that
Weird
on
time.
top of it.
Yeah.
It feels like it just kind of compounds that.
Yeah. Yes. And I also, like, we didn't have a lot of stores. And so clothes and fashion were never a thing for me. So even just from the way that I dress, like, I just felt on the outs. And my parents kind of moved to a little more of an affluent area. And so even, like, I remember when we first went to people's houses, like, they were all decorated nice and they had matching furniture and art on the wall. And in my friends' houses and my house in Colorado, like, that just wasn't a thing. Like, people had raggedy couches and they had, like, just, it was just like, just two very different worlds.
Yeah.
In so many ways. So I think during that time, I kind of put up a lot of defense mechanisms. Like, I kind of got this chip on my shoulder. Like, if anybody was remotely intimidating to me, then I kind of would, without even realizing it, kind of kind of cold and act like I don't care about you, because I was tired of feeling like the oddball. I was tired of feeling hurt by people. And I was tired of feeling like I didn't fit in specifically in like my neighborhood and my church and stuff. But in ninth grade, I met some really good friends. I don't know if you know Megan Hill. Her sister is Brittany Hill.
It sounds so. I'm really bad
So,
with names,
yeah,
so I'm sure if I saw the face,
They
I would
both
recognize
played
it.
on the girls' basketball team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of found I found this girl that didn't dance, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with dance. That was just a world that I wasn't in. And it was hard for me to find girls that had common interests as me at that time. So I found this friend Megan, and she was just fun and down to earth. And we kind of went through ninth grade and the rest of high school together. And I started to get a little more confidence. And I had a lot of friends in all different groups. But if anybody was considered cool, like Bobby, or if anybody was intimidating, then I kind of would just shut down. And Bobby even has mentioned how he'd show up to things. There was one event that my friend and I had invited all these people to come to our church to play basketball, and Bobby showed up, and we're like, "Ugh, why is he here?" And my friend and I left.
They bounced.
Because we're like, oh, lame people are coming. But without realizing it, I realized I had created a lot of really unhealthy mind patterns. And I think as I've gotten older and I've experienced different things, it's been good being married to Bobby, because he's kind of helped me retrain my mind a little bit and realize a lot of the negativity that we think about ourselves, even if it's based on other things, is us being stuck in our head. But when we have the courage to put ourselves out there and be kind and be loving, people are usually really receptive to that. And so I feel like the past, I don't know, decade or so, I've really have tried to fight those insecurities, because I think for a long time I just kind of would get this defense mechanism, build up this wall, because I was worried that people wouldn't like me or I wouldn't fit in. And so I've just been working on chipping away at that. But I feel like that's something that so many people can resonate with.
Yeah.
Especially just going through school is hard, and dealing with people can be hard. And sometimes people are jerks because they have a lot of crappy stuff going on in their life, and they're not meaning to be that way, but they're trying to deal with it in their way, just like we're trying to deal with it in our own way. And so I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling about all sorts of stuff. But
Well, I think it's interesting you say you still fight some of those insecurities, and I feel the same way. Like we all have our own little insecurities in different forms, and even as we get older and we can acknowledge them, like okay, they exist. A lot of times it's still hard to get rid of them, or to be like,
Yeah.
oh, that doesn't matter, but does it? And then
Yeah.
there's always that question in your mind of
yeah,
my house doesn't look like theirs, or I don't look like this person, or I don't have Bobby's abs or hair or calves. And so I think comparison's a dangerous game, but it's impossible not to compare at the same time. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a really hard thing to try and control.
yeah.
It's real when they say that it's the thief of joy.
Yeah.
But it is. I think it's one of life's biggest challenges to stay in your own sphere of saying it's me against me, because we are surrounded by all these other things and these accomplishments and this and that people have, and it takes a lot of self-discipline to really be okay with just comparing yourself to yourself.
Yeah. Very cool. When was the last time, well, not last time, when was the time when you were deliriously happy?
Oh gosh.
Tonight.
Right here. Talking about your pulsating calves.
I have been really happy because, well, I will say this. This is genuine. Hearing Heidi talk and answer some of these questions, that's genuinely fun for me, because somebody with my personality often unintentionally steals the show. And Heidi, as you can tell, is a freaking rock star.
Yeah.
And so I was so happy when you invited us on because I'm like, well, one, I get to hang out with one of the greatest people on earth. And two,
You always hang out with Heidi.
I
hello.
do.
Right
But
here.
I get to bring one of the other greatest people on earth
There you
on
go.
earth with me, you know?
Oh, he was talking about me.
And so I don't know. I love hearing her talk. I love hearing her talk about these struggles and being vulnerable, that it's real and how it's constant work to overcome them. And it's fun for me to showcase that to like the man games people who don't know Heidi. Like take a JD, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I would say JD and I really like each other, but we don't know each other super well yet. And
You got the kidnapping thing pretty spot on.
he did,
Yeah, that's
man. I'm like, maybe he knows me
really-
better than I know him. Time to go into listen mode.
Yeah.
JD, next time I ask the questions. But I'm like, for somebody like JD or some of these other folks, like a Taylor Dance, to be able to see my other side, like I love that.
Yeah.
And it's super rewarding to me. So yes, I am deliriously happy.
That's great. What about you, Heidi?
I think the last time I was deliriously happy was over the summer. We were in the backyard. Our kids were having a water fight, and we had this blow up pool. And Bobby and I were just in our clothes and kind of like splashing water on them here and there. And then before we knew it, we were in the pool in our clothes with our kids. And our kids thought it was like the coolest thing that mom and dad were like in the pool in their clothes with them. And it was just this random, spontaneous moment. But it's those moments where I'm like, life is so good.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. That's super cool. I think your camera just shut off.
Man, time to upgrade. Told you this was
I know.
planned.
This was planned.
FX3 or A7S3 is probably what he's going to want to go with.
How much are they?
The FX3 is more expensive than the A7S3.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to say it on camera while I'm being recorded,
Oh, I know
but
how
you can
much.
Google how much they are.
Actually, I think Bobby's told me because
He's got the lens. The lens is fine. It's the same lens I have on both mine.
He told me when you got your new camera or something because he was geeking out about it.
Yeah,
But I think I blocked out how much it was.
it's probably best.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of spin off of that. I think right now in the world, and there are valid reasons for this, but I feel like there is kind of this contention between men and women in certain aspects. And so that's why I'm really happy with how Man Games and Girl Games is turning out, because at both of them, so at Girl Games, we have a lot of men who come and volunteer and help out and try to provide that opportunity. And then the same thing at Man Games, it's a lot of women who come and volunteer and help out. And so just to have both of you on here at the same time, I think is awesome. And I would love to get more of those who've participated in Girl Games here too. So if anyone on your team wants to
I'll tell him.
climb out of the
I'm
shell,
like imagining Michelle
I know,
here
we
right
can get
now.
Michelle on here. That
Yeah.
would be
And I would just love
entertaining.
that.
but I do love that aspect of it. And especially like the husband-wife combo. So JD's one whose wife has also come to the Girl Games, and anytime we can have that, I think is fantastic. So what swag item needs to be in the next swag bag for Man Games and Girl Games?
I love the swag.
We try to
bags.
go big on the swag bags.
And you guys nailed it on this
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah.
I use all of them all the time. All the things.
I saw you have the thread bag.
Yes, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
In my Carhartt beanie and my Fahala Raven bag. It was awesome.
What are we missing?
Somebody just the other day complimented me on my Man Games nomadic style backpack.
Yeah.
And that's what I carry on the daily basis when I don't have my cameras.
Yeah.
Is that one. Dude, you really are nailing it with the swag. In fact, I'm going to reverse the question. I'm going to say, what do you take out of the swag bag? What I don't use from the swag bag is like the little bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
We actually, those Awala water bottles, we have taken our Girl Games and Man Games stickers and we put them on there.
Yeah.
So I think you keep the stickers.
I love the Owala bottles.
Those are great. The other thing that I actually love that is underrated is the little wood chip that you
With
put
your name?
with everybody's name that you put on the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is just awesome.
Cool.
Um,
It's funny because the wristband hasn't left my wrist for 3 years or whatever it is.
Sounds
but,
like a Bobby problem.
yeah, but there are some people who are like, I want more of those, right? So it's so
Yeah.
hard with man games, and even
well, then it's just a preference thing and disregard my comment.
no. I think it's important because, and that's what I love about both of you, because you've both been willing to share open and honest feedback about that. Like, I don't take that you don't use this wristband as that it's junk and that it should be burned, but it is nice to know. And I remember even the first girl games with the basketball, you're like, hey, if we're just doing a shooting contest, that's pretty wussy. So it's just like,
I know that was
no, I was like, I love that she's sharing that though, like, because I want to make this event unbelievable for everybody who comes, and that's impossible to please everybody, but I want
Right.
to make it awesome. And so the only way to do that is to get honest feedback of like, hey, this didn't quite work out well. It was fun, but it was kind of like this other event was pulled off better or worse, or swag items. This was good, but this other one was better. So I'm always trying to make it better. That's
Well,
the reason.
you have done, and this speaks to you, and I can say this because I've known you for a while, but since our youth, but also I've known you as a marketer. And you're a dude, like your professional career is a mirror of your personal ability within man games. Like you just win and you just are good at things. Like the fact that you're as good at videography as I am should piss me off.
I wouldn't go that far.
But it doesn't, because I'm like, oh, it's Eric we're talking about here, right? Like, he doesn't have to run a videography company to be this good.
No.
But you have taken that same thing and you've done it in prizes and in everything else with man games. Like the attention to detail is awesome, and for girl games as well. But like the swag and everything. The fact that we're getting quality stuff for the price point that we're paying is unreal.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Like the fact that you're giving away Wilson Evolutions, the fact that you're giving away $250 pickleball paddles, like, dude, that's insane considering our entrance fee and, you know, a couple sponsors.
Yeah.
Like it really is, it speaks to you and how far you can stretch a dollar, but also that you are trying to take this and give people an elevated experience rather than just being like, okay, cool, I'll pocket a little bit more cash, and, you know, we'll just chalk it up to, hey, cool weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't made money on it yet. So just the dollars do go back to you, which, again, what I get out of this is the relationships that you've both talked about. I think that that's what it's all about. So
Maybe
fun.
one item for potential swag is those soft sport dodgeball balls. How much are those?
Oh,
Those would be cool. Do you know what I'm
those
talking about?
the
dodgeball
ones we
balls.
used
Yeah.
in dodgeball?
Is that weird? I love those balls.
The reason this is on her mind is because we just were in Colorado with another family, and in their basement we had a Macy's versus them dodgeball tournament.
Yeah, they had a bunch of those balls, and I was like,
It
oh,
was
we need to
actually
get some
really
of these.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only one that would like that, but you put that as a prize.
Dodgeball ball. So also huge thanks to sponsoring, because again, man games wouldn't be and girl games wouldn't be possible without sponsors. And so it's such a huge lift for that. Otherwise it wouldn't be the same. I mean, the swag wouldn't be as cool and all of that stuff, but we've got some things in store this year that I think will be good. I'm excited for it.
Awesome.
All right. Let's go to the last 3 questions here. So who has not been at girl games that needs to be at the next one that you know?
Ooh, I have a friend named Ashley, and she needs to be there.
She does need to be there.
Ashley, you need to be there.
Ashley Jones. I'm gonna make her listen to this. Yeah,
Okay.
she's just an all-around athlete, and she's really cool. She'd have fun with all the teams. So
What sport needs to be in girl games that hasn't been in girl games?
basketball, but
Legit
3-on-3.
3-on-3 basketball.
I do get that there's challenges there with girl games, especially. What sport?
What about
Not golf.
swimming?
Swimming's in the spring man games.
Yeah. What about swimming for
Oh.
ladies?
I'm a swimmer, actually. I don't know if you knew that,
I
but
did not know that.
we could totally do swimming. But I haven't swam in a long time, so
The last 2 weeks I've been trying to learn how to swim.
it's an art.
I love it.
Like
I'm obsessed
there's-
right now.
When Bobby and I, the first time we went swimming and we were racing, and he thought he was going to blow me out of the water, but he doesn't actually know how to swim. So
It's true.
just like knowing the right technique and the right form gets
Yeah.
you a lot of edge.
To give you an idea, I was swimming as furiously fast as I could. And by the time we got halfway done with a single lap, she was already double my length.
Yeah.
Like one
But-
side, just from one side to the other, I was halfway when she was touching the wall.
Yeah, that's just because I know how to swim. You'd beat me if you knew how to swim. But
'Kay,
I'll keep it.
So I knew how to swim in that, like, I can swim as far as I can hold my breath.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the last 2 weeks I was like, I want to learn how to swim and breathe. And so
yeah.
the first time I started, I could go down in a 25-yard pool,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. And then I would like, come back. So I'm doing all these laps. And then after 2 weeks, I swam 20 laps. Down and back is one lap. I swam 20 without stopping. And so I was like, wow, this is like really
That's
fun.
awesome.
So I'm like obsessed with swimming right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a great sport.
Yeah. I won't participate in spring, so you won't have
I
to
was
deal
going
with
to say,
my
Bobby,
swimming.
you better get in the pool because Eric's already practicing.
I love it. I think it's great. What about you? Any other sports that you want to see at these games that haven't been played yet?
Tetherball.
That'd be wild. I've actually been really satisfied with the sports. And the only thing I've ever voiced, and I know people are mixed on this because you got the lovers and you got the haters. I'm not a poker guy.
Yeah.
And so for me, poker always feels like it's that extra event that it's not even a matter of me doing bad in it because I can handle not performing the greatest in a certain event. But it's the fact that I'm like, I'm so tired.
It was
I-
tough this time because it was like got started at 11:30 or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
And then like I think you called me and you were like, are you almost here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we're walking in, you know? And poker is the only event that I haven't been fully
Yeah.
satisfied with. But then again, when you're talking about everything you've put together, it's like, oh, poor Bobby, one event that he didn't absolutely love. Like, it's not a big
And we do
deal,
rotate,
right?
so it won't be
Yeah.
part of the spring one, but yeah. Okay, who from the last girl games would you like to see on this podcast and learn more about them?
I want Caitlin on this podcast.
Little husband-wife
I
combo.
might need somebody to interview her besides me because I might make her
Just
mad.
have
Well,
Bobby
if
interview
you
her.
want me to, I did take Caitlin on a date
A
once.
guest interview from her former dater.
Did she tell you about that, by the way?
She probably has, but I knew that I would lose that contest, so I just like buried it.
It was a very innocent date. I was.
So you didn't make out with Caitlin.
No,
this
I
week.
didn't. I don't even think we cuddled. It was
Caitlin's
just.
awesome.
It was. I always thought we used to call her Cutie Mauer Babe in high school. I don't know if you called her that.
I'm so
but-
offended right now. No,
But
I'm
we
just
called
kidding.
her that.
No.
And she was, as you know, she's just so cool.
Yeah.
And so
I
I was.
always like Caitlin.
I was like a couple months before my mission, and I had won tickets on the radio to go see the Blue Man Group.
Nice.
And I was like, who could I take on a date that would just be enjoyable to be with? But like I'm not looking for anything. They're not going to be looking for anything. I'm about to leave, you
Yeah.
know? And I remember I reached out to Caitlin. She's like, yeah, I'll go with you. And like, it was so cool just hanging out because there was no expectation of romance, right? And
There is now from me. I'm telling you, I am expecting romance from Caitlin.
yes, you are. But I would happily interview you. But
Perfect.
JD did a great job interviewing you,
He did.
though.
He did.
And so
That's
he,
what I mean. It's not for me. Like to
Yeah.
interview Caitlin.
he could be a great candidate if you were in
Yeah.
his seat, he was in your seat,
Yeah.
and she was in Heidi's seat.
Very cool. Who from Man Games would you like to learn about?
You've got some great people on already. Has Taylor Dance come on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't watched his then. I need to go back and watch his.
Yeah.
Has John come on?
No, we need to get John.
John's a fascinating person to me.
Yeah.
Super kind, super good at everything he does.
Everything.
And like, it's almost one of those things, like he blocked me in basketball this time around, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't even be mad at you. Like, I would love to hear from John.
Cool.
Because this dude, as far as I know, is a pilot,
Mm-hmm.
has a background in financial investments,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow is ridiculously good at all these things
Mm-hmm.
while he's been building a family.
Yeah.
And I would go as far as to venture a guess that he is an involved husband and father.
Yeah.
And just by who he is, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I would love to learn more about John.
John, I've said it before too. You got to come on here. All right. The last question so you can get home to your family. We'll start with you so you have more time to think about it. Bobby, what does it mean to you to be a man?
Bulging calves, rippling abs, hair that is formed through
Keep going.
plugging something into an electrical socket. No, for me, the definition of being a man is I hope that this doesn't bother anybody, but like I'm a religious guy. Like the definition of being a man to me is being Christ-like. Like not only through like I think of him and what he actually taught. Take organized religion out of it. What did he actually teach that we know he taught? All of these things were amazing principles. Kindness, love, like be understanding, try not to have contention. Like we're talking about that's manhood right there. It's not just Macho Man Randy Savage eating a stick of Slim Jim and saying, "Oh yeah," right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's masculine in some
You
ways,
paint a picture, man. I'm telling you.
but it is for me like true manhood is actual vulnerability, and it is trying to show restraint from like those natural emotions that we feel, which make us want to be macho. And I just think if you can become a refined person who has self-control and you are in control of your emotions in your life and your relationships, and you genuinely are someone that people speak about in high regard and with respect, that's manhood to me.
Heidi, what is womanhood to you?
I think it's twofold. I think it's being kind and compassionate and nurturing towards all people that you come in contact with. But I think it's also being strong and fearless and not being afraid to stand up for yourself and your rights and the things that you believe in your core to be true. And I also feel like it means being united with other women. Like I feel a blessing of being a woman is when you're united with a group of other women, because women are strong and they have a lot to offer. And I think that's one reason why I love Girl Games, is because it's this weekend where I feel united with my team, but then I feel united with all of these awesome women from all walks of life with all sorts of hobbies and different beliefs, and we're just good, strong people. And I feel like that's what womanhood is.
It's beautiful. Well, just as someone who puts on this event, the events wouldn't be the same without the Macy's. So both Girl Games and Man Games, it just wouldn't be the same, not just from the athletic standpoint, from just the people that you are and how people talk about you behind your back is something that I always like wonder, right? Like what are people really saying after all of this? Is Eric really just a schmuck, I think was the word that has been used, or is it genuine when they're, because people can be whatever they want, but I just know that behind your back, people speak so highly of you. And I think that that's really fun to me to experience based off of like our long relationship. And then the fact that you two are together, I think that that's awesome. So you're unbelievable.
Thanks.
Thank you for taking time out of your lives to sit down with me for a minute. And
Yeah, this was
and
fun.
chat.
Thanks.
This was fun, and I just have to profess my love for obviously Heidi, but you, Soda, like
thank you.
you just I think that you feel this because we're real with each other, but like I am just so impressed with the life you've built. And you are a person who chases after things. Like you go after what you want, and the things that you touch have a tendency to turn to gold. And that's because you work, and like you have just, I don't know, you yes, you possess innate natural ability in certain ways, but you also are a person who's like, I have a growth mindset. I want something, I'm going to go get it. Right. And it's been super fun for me as your friend, as your basketball teammate, as your tennis partner, right? As somebody you've beaten in many sports many times, to just watch your life be so complete. And like I can see in your eyes not only a bright countenance, but like happiness. delirious happy.
Delirious. So I can cut all of that out at the end there. This is about you too, but
No, I
appreciate you
wanted
saying
that
that.
in there because like people who only get to experience you for a little bit of man games and who don't have the 20-year relationship that you and I have, like they need to know this about you.
Well, I
So-
think that as we've talked about before, like we all have our insecurities at the same time, right? So there's a side of all of us that you see of me and that I see of each of you that is a fraction of who we are, right? And so it feels nice to say that because there is a part of me that wants to be that person, and then there's also the insecurities that don't feel that I'm there yet. So that was nice of you to say.
Well, I love you, buddy.
Love you too.
Thank you.